Welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, and I'm joined by Johan Bernil, and we're going to talk stage 13 of the 2023 Tour de France, where things are really starting to heat up. And we'll get Johan's take on what he saw today, both with the overall winner from a breakaway and the head-to-head battle for the GC. We'll get into that in just a second. All right, Johan, let's start with talking about Kwiatkowski with the win over that. But before you go too deep on him and how deep he dug to get the win, that wasn't supposed to be a breakaway staying away today, was it?
Normally not. You know, we had this relatively easy first part of the stage and basically just one big climb. And a big group of 19, 20 riders went away. I think that was the big problem. Yesterday we kind of anticipated that UAE would try to control the stage with these three riders, with Mikkel Björk and Langen and Trentin. That's what they did. But I think they underestimated the strength of the breakaway, or some of the riders in the breakaway. And Kwiatkowski finally showed to be not just the strongest, but especially the most experienced, because there was first three riders that kind of went away on the last climb. They looked like the three strongest riders, and Kwiatkowski really paced himself, and then all of a sudden came back and left them behind and finally won with almost a minute advantage. So amazing ride by him, you know. I think we tend to forget what a strong rider he is, because he has been during the Ineos years, the Sky years. He's been sometimes, most of the time, on a Grand Tour team, and was used to be one of the major domestiques. But you know, if you look at his palmarès, he was world champion a long time ago. Actually, he turned professional with us on Radio Shack in 2011. I remember, you know, he had been world champion already, juniors, and he kind of faded away a little bit. And he was on a small Spanish development team, and it was like nobody wanted to sign him. It was the development team of Movistar, and we were looking for some young riders, and I found him. I did some research on him, and I contacted him and asked him to go do a test at our doctor's consultant, like his office. And I remember the doctor calling me afterwards and said, "Okay, Johan, sign this guy straight away."
What was that? Oh, what does that test entail? I'm dying.
It's just a VO2 max test, you know.
Okay.
A normal effort test. But, you know, at that age and the numbers he was pushing there, I remember the doctor said, you know, he had only seen one better test in his career, was Contador.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I don't think in all our years of doing this, you've ever mentioned that, yeah, go do this test. I want to see some numbers. And as opposed to them just sending something to you, you want current with a doctor, you know.
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, that's you know, they could send you whatever they want, right?
Right.
But anyway, you know, I had gone see him also at the Tour de l'Avenir that year, and that year actually we signed him, and we also signed Nelson Oliveira, who's also in the Tour, Portuguese guy, who's on Movistar. He's in a lot of breakaways. So yeah, then, you know, Quick Step came after him. We were I think we were in the middle of doing this merge. Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. We were in the middle of doing this merge with Leopard, which later became Team Trek. And so he left to Quick Step and then turned world champion there, and then went on to sign for Sky. And he's been there ever since. But, you know, if you look at his list of victories, you know, world champion, 2 times Amstel Gold Race, Milan-San Remo, beating Alaphilippe, 2 times Strade Bianche, 1 Tirreno Adriatico, 1 the Tour of Poland, just name it. You know, I mean, This is his second stage in the Tour. All while he has been basically a domestique in a lot of other races. The guy's a top quality rider, and seeing what I've seen already on stage 6 when he was actually in the breakaway, which went over the Tourmalet and then finished on Cauterets, and he was able to follow Vingegaard and Pogacar until 2 kilometers to go, I think. That was a proof that he was in good shape. So a guy like that, if he goes in a breakaway, although he did say today, that he was in the break and he said, we can never make it to the finish. But, 19 riders, to bring that back with 3 riders, that's a big task. That's a really big task. And that's ultimately what UAE was confronted with. They could not allow themselves to put other riders who normally had to do the job on the climb. And once the breakaway started with close to 4 minutes, it was very likely that at least 1 or 2 riders of the breakaway would make it to the finish, which is what happened.
Again, we see a older rider over 30, making a good tactical move. This is that experience pays off. And
you would have to think, the raw power is for the young guys, right? But the race savvy smartness is still for the more experienced guys, like Pello Bilbao, like Johnny Zaguirre, like Kwiatkowski.
And then we're seeing a different role for Sky, but this tour could turn out really.
You mean Ineos.
Oh, what did I say? I say Sky. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
This is a different tour that, if you look over the last 15 years for Ineos, and it could turn out really well. They could a stage win, and they have 2 pretty solid in the top 10.
Yeah,
could see Pidcock move up to very realistically get that 5th position right behind his teammate.
Yeah, it could be. I think they're really, they're really making the best of what they have, right? They know for a fact that they have nobody who can rival with Jonas and Tadej, and that they have these 2 young guys who are discovering basically what they're able to do in the Tour de France, and for the moment they're doing well. Carlos Rodriguez is looking very good. But Tom Pidcock starts to really be more and more impressive. The last 2 uphill finishes, the one on Puy de Dôme, he was strong, like up there, very close to the 2 best guys. And today also he was the best of the rest. So this is obviously, the proof that this guy has the quality to be. He has the quality to be the best of the world in basically anything. I just heard today also that he's like, after the tour, he's going to do the World Championships road and mountain bike, same as Van der Poel, by the way. But now he's here. And I think that, he's probably done a lot of preparation for the tour, but not the same as somebody like Vingegaard, who, focuses his whole season on the tour. So Pidcock, looks like he's making another step towards, being. I think Pidcock is a great talent, and don't know if he can ever win a Grand Tour, but he can definitely be up there.
Interesting, because it's hard for him to be this Grand Tour guy with all of his other ambitions with the other disciplines, right? Is that what it boils down to?
That's, of course, how do you say to a guy like this, okay, you can do no more mountain biking and you can do no more cyclocross. You need to focus on the road. And then even if you want to go for like a big tour, like the Tour, you also need to, lower your ambitions in the Spring Classics. That's just not natural for these guys, right? So I think that's the difficult challenge that they have with multi-talents like this.
Mm-hmm. I'd love your thoughts on team tactics today, UAE versus Jumbo. Yesterday on the show, you anticipated and even said, Jumbo can take the day off. We saw Sepp Kuss up there staying with Vingegaard, but the rest of the team, was it a poor performance, or were they just saving up for today, like you predicted?
It changed. I mean, our opinion on Jumbo-Visma and even on UAE changes all the time. Today I was thinking, I was driving somewhere with my car, and I said, you know what? I think I figured it out. I said, these team directors and these riders, they just look at one stage at a time. They don't look 2 or 3 days ahead. That's the only way I can explain that they're. I mean, that's of course that's a joke, but it's the only way I can explain certain things happening. Like yesterday, you could see. I rewatched some images, and especially at the beginning, and Jumbo-Visma was on a mission yesterday. Like every single breakaway, there had to be somebody in there. Whenever there was no breakaway, they attacked themselves with Tish Benoot, spent so much energy. That I say, and then their explanation is, well, we wanted the bonuses to be gone. Honestly, to me, that makes no sense at all. And then today, today they didn't have to do anything. So they probably calculated already, okay, Pogačar will want to go for the stage. There's going to be a breakaway. They're going to ride on the flat, and then we don't really need to be strong as a team because Jonas just needs to follow UAE and Pogačar on the last climb. So that worked out for them today. Now, I don't know if that was on purpose. Well, what was on purpose definitely was Van Aert sitting up. Normally if a day like today, if Jonas Vingegaard would go for it, Van Aert would be one of the guys who drills it at the bottom of the climb, like speeds up and puts in a strong tempo. Obviously, that was clear that was not going to be the case. Then you saw Tish Benoot getting dropped, not sitting up. So I said, well, okay, yeah, he spent a lot yesterday. He was in the breakaway all day. But then you see Kelderman, who was normally the second last guy for Vingegaard. So he got dropped early. Or then you ask yourself the question, did he not insist really? Because he knows that they don't have this plan for Vingegaard because their goal today is just stay with Pogačar. And then at the end, finally, it was only Sepp Kuss with Jonas. And he didn't have to put any tempo. He did respond to an attack of Adam Yates. But as a team, if you look at it, you can say, okay, UAE, they have 3-4 guys there. Vingegaard is kind of on his own. He has Sepp Kuss there. But then when you think a little bit further, you can say, yeah, maybe they're thinking about saving and about tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll get the answer if that's really what they were thinking.
And so flip-flop, UAE worked hard today, and they continued to work as if Pogačar was going to get the stage win.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway observing that? I mean, it was full gas. 4 or 5 guys, like really dominant.
UAE worked hard. They, okay, you can say that, those 3 guys, Bjerg, Langen, and Trentin, they had to do the job for I don't know how long it took. Let's say 15, 20 kilometers before. Then they had like 90 kilometers until they got to the bottom of the climb. So you can say, okay, you know what? It's not too bad. They take turns. So let's say in reality, they spent 30 kilometers each on the front of real effort, right? That's okay. But then on the last climb, they had the other 4 riders going full gas. Marc Soler spent a lot of energy. Then who was the other guy? Groschartner spent quite a bit. Then Maika, and then finally Adam Yates. So I personally think that it was a big investment, a lot of energy spent for not very much benefit.
And that benefit turned out to be how many seconds? It just wasn't that much.
Well, if they come together to the finish, let's say if it's for the stage win, Pogačar could get 10 seconds. Most likely, Jonas Vingegaard would get 6 seconds. So that's 4 seconds. So it's just the amount of time that he could drop Jonas. So independently, they could have done exactly the same thing and still got the same bonus. Without we'll get the 4 seconds bonification, but honestly, a whole day of work for 4 seconds bonification, that's, in my opinion, that's not worth it.
Yeah, what would today's stage have looked like if UAE didn't pull all the way up that climb? They'd have just still been side by side, or back to back, whichever way you look at it, and then sprinting at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it would be the same.
Huh.
Obviously, Vingegaard was not able to. He's not able to. He can respond to that acceleration, but he can't keep it. So it would have been exactly the same. They wouldn't have had the bonification. But also, this was now just at the end, a pure luck, because there were still 3-4 riders up front, and if one of those guys is a little bit stronger, then Pogačar is not third, and he's fourth, and it's just 4 seconds. So I personally think it was a big day of work for not a lot of reward, which in the Tour de France, that's not what you want.
Now, you'll find this interesting because you've been talking for some time about how, hey, the Peloton's getting 1% faster every year. And, you looked at some numbers of what Pogačar did on this climb in 2020. And it's not just that Pogačar was a little bit was faster than 2020. It's a lot of people are faster than his 2020 time.
2020, Pogačar won the stage, beat Roglic in the sprint. We don't know if the weather circumstances were the same, but he climbed the Grand Colombier in 45 minutes, 50 seconds. 3 years later, same climb, does an attack also at the end, and he does 44 minutes, 1 second. So that's 1 minute, 49 seconds faster. He does beat that. I don't know if that was the record, probably, but it's not just him, JB. It's probably 15 riders who went faster than 3 years ago.
Wow.
Because if you look, Pogačar finishes third. So obviously Vingegaard went faster, Pidcock went faster, Hindley went faster, Simon Yates, Adam Yates, Carlos Rodriguez, Sepp Kuss, Felix Gall, Louis Meintjens, David Gaudu, Pello Bilbao. They all went faster than the first guy in 2020.
It just reiterates, like, it's these 13 or so guys have improved that much in a couple of years to be where Pogačar was in 2020, but it's not enough. The top two still keep improving. There's still a bit of that gap.
Of course.
Oh, that's got to be frustrating.
It was more or less, if you look at how the stage was decided in 2020, and now it was more or less the same. It was a group of 8-10 riders that bit by bit started to accelerate, and then just the last 2-3 riders went up. Sepp Kuss was up there also with Roglic in 2020. So it's more or less the same. They all go a minute plus faster. It's that's where you see sometimes you keep seeing this. There was a bit of controversy about Chris Froome, right, lately, where the team owner said, we didn't get value for our money, and then Chris Froome says, I'm coming back. I'm pushing my best numbers again, and doesn't matter if you push your best numbers, man. You're going to be nowhere.
The world has moved on.
It's over. Wow. Whatever. Even if you get to your best, there's no way you're going to get close to those guys.
Today's show is brought to you by Ketone IQ, made by HVMN. On an upcoming show, we're going to talk to Michael, the CEO of HVMN. I think you'll find it pretty interesting. And I challenge you to do a subscription to it. Give it a few months. I can vouch for it personally that I definitely feel more mental clarity, more sharpness, alertness, not bonking during the day. And that's on a shot a day. So there's a couple options for you. You can use these little, what I just call the travel pack kind of size. You're going on a trip, throw a bunch of these in your bag. Or in my fridge, I have these large bottles, which is actually 10 shots per bottle. So, try a subscription, give it a few months. I think you'll see some improvement, whether it's physical, mental. You'll definitely feel something. I have, and 60% of the peloton in the tour is using this. This says something all in itself. Available at Sprouts. If you have one of those in your city, you can grab them there. Or you can get 30% off the subscription that I mentioned of Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe checkout for 30% off. Today's show is also brought to you by Ventum. We've been telling you about the NS1 for some time, their road bike. And then they released the GS1 just a few years ago. And now the all-new GS1, which is the bike that I just got. And I can tell you personally that I'm enjoying it out here in Aspen because there's a big trail that connects the towns through the valley. And it goes back and forth between paved and gravel. And I've ridden it in the past on my road bike, and it was doable, but you just feel like you're going to slide out on any corner. So you're slowing it way down. Not anymore. The GS1, you just kind of keep rocking. You don't care what the terrain is. Maybe you have some pathways that are just lumpy. They've aged a bit. Man, it just takes all that out of it riding a GS1. It's just an incredible bike. You can build it out online, which is a fun thing to do. Just go in there, pick the frame. All the frames are the same, top of the line, no matter how you outfit it. And you can outfit it as low as on the GS1 as just under $3,000, $2,999 with the SRAM Apex AXS. And then you can build out and spec out everything to your liking. It's a really fun exercise to do. And they offer, and I kind of compared it to some of the other brands where you can order online. They offer a lot more detail in how you build it out. Handlebar width, crank length, all those things. Check it out at ventumracing.com, and you can get 10% off when you use the code WEDO at checkout. 10% off a bike really adds up. WEDO at checkout at ventumracing.com/themove. And we have two things still to talk about. I want you to talk about the fight for the podium, this battle for the third spot on the podium. But before that, I know you also wanted to explain as they go into the Alps, it's not high mountains as you might expect. Explain who that benefits or.
I just went through the stages, right, that we still have. So, for example, tomorrow we have the finish in Morzine. They don't go. They never go over 1,700 meters. So it's not the high mountains, right? It's not. This is not 2,000 meters. It's different. Then the day after, again, same thing, 1,500 meters. Then it's a rest day. Then it's the time trial, and then it's a very hard stage into Courchevel. Here they do two climbs of 2,000 meters, which is, the Cormet de Roseland at the beginning. And then the only big climb, a part of the Tourmalet, is the Col de la Loze. That's 2,300 meters. That's the hardest climb, in my opinion, of the whole tour. But except that stage, they don't go really into the very, very high Alps. Which I think personally benefits Pogačar. Why I say that is because, Pogačar, because of the circumstances, has only been able to do one altitude training camp. And it was kind of also, I think, in like accelerated mode. He was in Sierra Nevada with the injury still. Didn't spend that much time. Because he still had to go and recon some Tour de France stages. Whereas Jonas Vingegaard has done multiple altitude camps, which of course benefits your overall condition. but it also gives you an advantage when you're over 2,000 meters in the race. So here, whatever we have left, they only have one climb left over 2,000 meters, and that's the last mountain stage. So I think that benefits Pogačar.
Oh, that's interesting. And then now the fight for the podium. What's the outlook? There's a really interesting battle for that. I mean, Jay Hindley's in good shape, but
yeah,
if he has a bad day, let's say.
Well, Jay Hindley is right now, he's almost 2 minutes ahead of fourth place. He keeps being up there. He loses a little bit of time, not too much. Today he was the fourth best guy of GC. Carlos Rodriguez lost a little bit of time today. Adam Yates lost a bit of time. Simon Yates, Pello Bilbao lost a lot of time. And then we have Thomas Pidcock. So I think for Thomas Pidcock is getting better, but he's still only in 8th, right? He definitely does have the potential to be in the top 5. The podium, he would need a bad day from Jay Hindley. Or a bad time trial, maybe. I don't think that's going to happen because it's a hard time trial. For the moment, Jay Hindley looks like he's in pole position for the podium. But of course, we still have these big Alps stages ahead of us. That's going to be a very, very interesting race. We have the first two here behind me, separated by 9 seconds. So deep into the Tour de France, I think it's a long time ago. I cannot remember any time. I remember 2003, very, very late into the Tour. Lance was 15 seconds ahead of Ulrich for a number of stages. So that didn't feel very good, I can tell you. So I can only imagine how they feel in Jumbo-Visma, that it's stressful, it's nerve-wracking.
Because you go back and you said leading up to this tour, he's got to hit him in that first week. He's got to get that gap. And he did. Yeah. But it's shrinking. It's just shrinking.
Yeah, bit by bit. And still, the differences are really small, but it must feel like, somebody's creeping up on me. It's like, we'll see. People keep saying, Vingegaard is better in the long mountains. And Pogačar's not bad either. I've seen him do some crazy stuff in long mountains already. So we'll see. I think for the moment it's still advantage Pogačar, bit by bit, except that first mountain stage, but these man-to-man battles, he's won them, all of them, the last 3 of them, right? So yeah, we'll see. The podium battle will be very interesting. JB, you have Jay Hindley, you have Rodriguez, the 2 Yates brothers, Pidcock, Bilbao, Gaudu. I don't think Gaudu can be on the podium, and Sepp Kuss, that's the top 10. So I think it's going to be between Hindley, Rodriguez, and probably Pidcock. So yeah, we'll see.
All right, let's get your thoughts on tomorrow. We, according to Lance, he looked it up. There may be some bad weather to deal with tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I just received the official communication here from the Tour, and they're expecting good temperatures and no rain. So
okay, that changes things.
Tomorrow, stage 14. We go over Juplan in the end of the stage, finish in Morzine. 152 kilometers, so not very long, but it's a hard stage. It's 4,300 meters of total elevation. So calculate that in feet. It's 14,000 feet of climbing. 3 Cat 1 climbs and 1 horse category climb, which is the Juplan. The Juplan is a really, really hard climb. We have some bad memories there on the Juplan. Me personally, I remember that day I had the Prime Minister of Belgium in my car. And, we had been very dominant. Lance was, I think, 6-7 minutes lead. And so the guy is a huge cycling fan. And so, I say, and Lance, how's he going to say, on Jouplan, I think he's going to go, I think he's going to drop everybody. Ooh. We got to the bottom of the Jouplan and I saw Richard Virenque go, Ulrich go, and Lance just stayed there. I said, what's going on? And turned out he was bonking. So we had to really manage that 10-kilometer climb and, stay calm and try to get through it. Finally, it turned out okay. He only lost like 1.5 minutes, which was not bad for somebody who's bonking at the bottom of a 10-kilometer climb. But I think a breakaway has a chance. Tomorrow, I think it's back to Jumbo-Visma to take control of the race. They're in yellow. And we'll see what they do. I mean, if they're going to put guys in the break, I think Van Aert is going to be on duty again. Probably someone else of their team. And then tomorrow, it's I think the reversed scenario of today is Jumbo-Visma in control and UAE following them, and then probably UAE taking over on the last climb to prepare an attack of Pogacar. And then we've seen what happened last year when they both went down crazy as Pogacar went down on one of those downhills. So
they were taking all kinds of risks going head to head, and that if you don't remember it from last year, both of them almost went down. Pogacar did slide out in the gravel, and then they just sort of sat up and called a truce. Like, wait a minute, we're going to die trying to do this. It was actually a great moment in the sport.
Tomorrow it's a technical downhill. I'm not going to say it's dangerous, but it's they can. I mean, especially if you're already on the limit on that climb, they're quite equal going downhill. Also, I have to say, Vingegaard is not a bad guy, he's not bad in downhill. So we'll see what happens. If they can't drop each other, for sure, I expect both of them to put the other one on the limit in the downhill. So that's going to be tension from the couch to watch that. But yeah, it's a 4,300 meters of climbing. It's a hard stage, a really hard stage. You would expect that somehow you start to see some more separation between both of them. But for the moment, man, I mean, they're really there. It's like whenever it's steep, Pogacar has this kick. He can get a little bit of time on Vingegaard, but Vingegaard is tough and doesn't break. That could also happen again tomorrow. I think Pogacar is going to try to attack.
Well, after what we saw today, like, he's definitely thinking, okay, I need to go a little sooner. I can drop him, and I just needed more time. He did it so late today, which is why it didn't amount to as much as he probably would have liked.
Yeah, well, it was also to do with the steepness of the climb. Like at the end, it was a bit easy. The hard part was really in the beginning of this climb, and then he knew that those last 400-500 meters were really steep, like super steep. So that's probably why he waited. Sometimes you can get the same amount of time with a short, violent attack than with an attack and then having to maintain that for 2 or 3 kilometers. But tomorrow, Jouplan is hard all the way, all the way. That's a hard climb.
All right, let's do our Ventum trivia. There was some question over yesterday's answer. I guarantee you, when we have 2 or 3 answers that I've thrown out that I got from Ventum that we thought were right, if it ended up being something else, they're going to consider both answers and put it into the drawing. Okay, so I'll just move on to today's question, which Johan might remember off the top of his head. We'll see. What was the first year the Tour had the Grand Depart outside of France, and where did it take place? No, shaking his head. That does not know. Okay.
I mean, I have something in mind, but probably not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing with this, they're making it very easy at Ventum. They want you to participate. You can look it up, do the research on your own, and email that answer. Do not send it to us. Send it to trivia@ventumracing.com, and you're going to be entered to win NS1, the road bike, on the last day. We'll be drawing that, okay? The first thing is not so much a question, but I thought it was super interesting. Johan, I brought it up on the move, because yesterday we played a clip of Jonas Vingegaard, and you commented, it's like, I don't hear the confidence in him. He said something like, well, I'm going to try very hard tomorrow. And in your mind, that's not a quote from a badass champion, right? It sounds like it's doubtful.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is interesting. One of our listeners, Heidi, wrote to us, and I'd love your thoughts on this. She says, "Hey, Johan, I'm an American living for over 20 years on the northwest coast of Denmark, 30 kilometers from where Jonas was born and did his training. The area is called Thy. It's spelled Thy, but pronounced Thy. The natives here, northwest, are notoriously understated and not very animated. So when they say, I'll do my best, it really means I'll kick ass. When they mean something like when they mean that something is really good, they typically say it's not too bad, right? That's just their demeanor. Bjarne Riis was from the west of Denmark, though 2 hours further south of here. He was also tremendously understated in interviews.
Yeah.
Regards and thank you, sharing your knowledge and humor on this great podcast." That's from Heidi. Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting.
I can understand what she says. It's not to the same extent, but I live in Spain, right? Southern Europe, and I'm from Northern Europe, right? Not as high up as Denmark, but also, Belgium is considered Northern Europe, and they always say the more north you go, the colder people are. I mean, the colder temperatures, yes, but also, the less passionate, the less emotional. And that's true, actually. Sometimes I get the same remark here in Spain, like, yeah, you guys Nordics, you guys are cold, you don't show emotion. So I can understand what she's saying. Yeah. So good point. Good point.
No, that is pretty interesting. It's probably similar in the U.S. if you go east coast to west coast. Right. You start out East Coast, people are hard. That's generations of the first colonies that they had to survive. Then you move into the Midwest, people are super nice. Then you get to the West, they're just soft. The Californians and like in Seattle, they're just so soft. Pretty interesting. One more question here for you, Johan. It says, "My name is Randy and I'm from Los Angeles. Been a listener since the very beginning of the podcast when it was called Stages. My question is, has there been a Tour de France where a majority of the sprinters have missed the time cut, causing them to be eliminated, especially on high mountain stages on either the Alps or the Pyrenees?" That's from Randy. Good question.
Well, I can't remember. I mean, sprinters, of course, have been eliminated because of the time cut. But normally, there's always something happening in the peloton, which is called the bus, the forming of the bus. The bus is called the gruppetto, which is basically riders sticking together to make sure that they're enough in quantity to not get eliminated in case they don't make the time cut. Because this, you see this in the Tour de France, for example, that group gets bigger and bigger as the stages go on. And that's obviously, they do it on purpose. They know that if there's 50, 60, 70 riders together, the Tour de France is not going to take them out, because then you're left with a peloton of 70, 60 riders, which does not look very good on TV. Riders, in a group of sprinters being eliminated, yes. But that's also why sprinters, normally they have 2 or 3 teammates with them. So they can, on the flat parts or in the valleys, they can paste them back into the bus. Let's say the gruppetto. And then normally on the last climb, they try to stick together. They said there's always a bus driver. They call it a bus driver, which is the one who sets the pace in the gruppetto. And that's like a pace that everybody can more or less follow, but just like accept an acceptable pace, not too fast, not too slow. So big groups normally don't get eliminated. Then the commissaires normally or the Tour de France asks the UCI judges, hey, let's keep them in, let's come up with whatever, special race circumstance.
They can find a reason, right? Yeah. You have to remind yourself it's a television show. It's a sports entertainment. Yeah. And like you said, if all those riders go home, that's not as entertaining.
No.
And so everybody wants to see the show succeed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Great stuff, Johan. Appreciate your insight. As always, you can write to Johan with your questions. Send it to JB2, JB2 at wedo.team. All right. Thanks, Johan, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, JB. Thanks. Speak tomorrow.